Murderers will pay the ultimate price as Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar moves to implement the death penalty. The Prime Minister made the announcement in the Parliament this afternoon, declaring she will heed the public's cries for the return of the hangman.
I refuse to let a small handful of devious criminals hold this nation to ransom whilst they savagely attack and brutalize our society. The government is committed, Mr. Speaker, to addressing frontally the challenge to fighting crime. We intend to retaliate with full force and strike back.
A tough-talking Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar as she declares the time has come for the death penalty to be implemented as the punishment for murder. In a statement in the lower house which followed a crime statement from the National Security Minister, the Prime Minister says citizens are crying out for help.
We have tolerated it for too long, and the change demanded by the population on May 24th calls for a radical and revolutionary vision and approach to our many inherited problems. I intend to heed that call, Mr. Speaker, indeed cry for change. It is a cry for help, as criminals have ruptured the very soul of our nation. To this end, Mr. Speaker, the People's Partnership Government has decided to introduce a bill to amend the Constitution to facilitate the implementation of the death penalty.
The Prime Minister says the death penalty will not be imposed for all cases of murder, but 3 categories of murder will be identified in the Offences Against Persons Bill. Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar says amendments to the bill will plug the many loopholes that have been exploited by murderers who were properly convicted.
The bill, I'm saying, first seeks to categorize murders, 1, 2, and 3. And secondly, the bill seeks to overcome the hindrances to the implementation of the death penalty, arising out of various Privy Council decisions, such as pre-trial delay, post-trial delay, legitimate expectation that the Mercy Committee would consider the findings of an international body and prison conditions.
The Prime Minister says the UNC government was opposed back in 1998 by the PNM when they sought to amend the Constitution to prevent delays in implementing the death penalty. Mrs. Persad-Bissessar says now is the time for the opposition to act.
This is not a time for political games. This is a time for action in the interests of the nation and our citizens. I want to point out that it is not the intention to remove these impediments to implementation of the death penalty in such a manner that an accused is denied his constitutional rights of a fair trial. The death penalty is to be implemented only after such a person would have exhausted all legal avenues.
The bill will require a 3/4 majority in the lower house and a 2/3 majority in the Senate. Melissa Wong, iNews.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Dr. Keith Rowley says his view on the death penalty has not changed, but he wants the court system to be made more efficient.
Opposition leader Dr. Keith Rowley, in his response to the Prime Minister's statement regarding the re-implementation of the death penalty, says the issue is not necessarily one of law, adding that the court system should be the area of focus instead.
The problem has not really been the law, an absence of the law. It has been the operations of the courts. Because if you maintain the death penalty and you still have to go to the Privy Council, where all manner of appeals are available, and sympathy in a way that there's an inherent objection at the Privy Council to the death penalty, changing it to a new law does not automatically bring about the kinds of results that the Prime Minister talked about.
Dr. Rowley says the new government is facing the same hurdles and challenges as the previous administration. He claims they assumed a government with absolutely no crime plan in mind.
But we have a new managers managing what was there before. Clearly, it's not making any difference. It was what the previous government was doing that this government is continuing with, a little tinker here, a little tinker there. What it shows and proves is that criminals, whoever they are, have no regard for who is occupying the seat of government. No criminal decides that I will not commit a crime because the government is Mr. X or Miss Y.
The opposition leader also gave his proposal to what might help in the fight against crime. He adds there is not enough accountability in the justice system.
I would like to see district police officers be responsible for the district within the policing system. So the sergeant be very responsible for his district, give him the resources, manpower and equipment, and be held accountable for criminal behavior in that district. And by extension, to come up the system, the superintendent, he should be responsible, and not just responsible to the commissioner of police, but to the people in the district who must know who he is, know what he's doing, how effective he is, and have that kind of interaction and discourse.
Veena Bharat, IE News.